This is the Immaculate Heart of Mary Chapel, both the geographical and the spiritual, the symbolic heart of the Summit Country Day School in our community. The cornerstone was laid in 1892, and it was consecrated in 1895 by Archbishop Elder. Sister Julia McGroarty was very much involved in designing this. It is a great example of Gothic revival architecture. Gothic architecture is what you see in all the big cathedrals in Europe, and Summit is actually a lovely little gem that reflects those very large cathedrals. In the Victorian era, that was revived, hence the name Gothic Revival. And this kind of architecture is where you see the vaulted ceilings, the flying buttresses on the outside, and the cross shape of the church with the main walkway and then the side altars creating the image of the cross, which you can see very well from above in the choir loft. So let's talk about some of the detail. The architect was Edwin Durang from a well-known ecclesiastical and theatrical architectural firm in Philadelphia. It's actually still active. And Durang's family itself was really very interesting. His grandfather was the first Native American-born actor. His father and uncle were supposedly the first performers of the Star-Spangled Banner. His grandmother was also involved in the theater, which was rather odd for women or well-brought-up women in that time frame. And his mother was a children's book author. So Mr. Durang had worked with Sister Julia McGroarty, again, when she was in Philadelphia, and she brought him here to create her vision of a chapel. She wanted that Gothic architecture. She wanted the large walkway. She loved the idea of processions and music. It was built at a cost of $50,000, which certainly seems like a bargain today. You'll notice on the walls, especially at the entrance and around, there are 12 Greek crosses with candles in them. This was part of the consecration of our chapel, and these candles indicate that this space is consecrated. This is sacred for all of eternity. So even if we're gone in 100 years, you're never going to see this turn into the Taft Ale House. This is a consecrated religious space forever. One of the first things everybody notices when they walk in is what some young students have called the polka-dotted floor. There was a sink maker downtown who said that he would donate the remnants from making the sinks. So the circle that you see, this is where they cut out the sink. The sisters were then responsible for, piece by piece, taking these from the factory downtown to the 6th Street Convent, where once they were collected, they were all brought up here in order to lay our wonderful marble floor. The hand-carved pews are the other thing that people really notice right away. These are the original hand-carved pews. They were designed and actually done by the sisters. If you look at some of the first photos of our chapel, you see the pews without these. And they're actually quite lovely. Every single one is a little different. They have different plants, they have flowers, there are birds, there's religious iconography with different crosses. Sometimes you'll see things like Ma Mère in honor of Mary, and they really are quite striking. These are our original pews, and then a number of other ones were donated to match more recently. I do have to mention that in the last 10 years, the Parents Association donated the lovely cushions. Students for probably over 100 years had been wishing for those. The pipe organ was part of Sister Superior Julia's vision. She loved the sound of music. She wanted it within the chapel walls, wanting the congregation to take part in music. This particular Austin pipe organ was originally built in 1876. It was donated in 1920 by the Hummel family. The Stations of the Cross on the side are, again, 3D carved, very striking, but we have no idea who the artist is. None of our documentation that remains indicates who that is. When the chapel was redone in 2004-05, they redid these to be like they were initially, with the gilded halos and the blue skies. The stained glass is a hallmark of Summit. It's what everybody always notices. And I always tell the incoming freshmen when we give them their tour that one of the things that alumni like to talk about is what one piece of the stained glass they see that really resonated with them. I've had teachers and alumni talk about it's the green that's on the Angel Gabriel's wing. It's a specific boat on the Jesus and the Fisherman stained glass. These are, again, the original stained glass. They're from Munich. They came and were installed in 1894. Except for a few areas, which we'll talk about in a second, the original bright colors still remain. It's thought that that's because of some choices that architect Durang made. The chapel is aligned a little differently from most chapels. The altar actually backs up on the south, and we now think that that's why it's been able to retain the bright colors. The only place where you see them really fade is there are 4 angels that are located on these corners, and 3 of them, the faces are almost gone. The one over here, however, is still just as bright and as detailed as it was when it was first installed. You see a number of things, again, religious iconography, the Alpha and the Omega, books representing learning are in a lot of these different windows as well. And there's also a second set of windows that's further up. Remember that when this chapel was designed, there was no electricity in here, just gas lighting and candles until you get to the early decades of the 1900s. So Durang had to make do with natural light and oriented the chapel and created these windows to get as much natural light in here as he possibly could.